Chapter 527 to 528. Most of the Konoha shinobi have focused most of their attention on Obito and his Susanoo. So the only one paying attention to Fujin's changes was Kurenai, whose attention is also diverted on Fujin. She noticed that Fujin suddenly looked into the distance, was startled for some reason, and then immediately recovered as if nothing had happened. What exactly did he see there? Following Fujin's gaze, Kurenai also looked in that direction with a curious expression, only to see a black crow flying away in the dim and dusty night sky. A crow. Is it a normal crow, or is it? Kurenai also knows that the number of crows in the forest around Konoha has increased sharply. Therefore, when she noticed the crow and Fujin's attention to that crow, she immediately attributed that perhaps this has something to do with Fujin and Amate. Understanding this, Kurenai, who had walked closer to Fujin, immediately stood next to Fujin and asked in a familiar manner, "Say, Futenkun, what should we do now?" The moment Obito started to use the complete body Susanoo in conjunction with his Kamui, his power is simply overwhelming, and not something that anyone in Konoha or any other great shinobi villages can resist. Jonin doesn't even have the qualification to fight him, while the higher cage class can barely defend themselves and don't pose a threat to Obito at all. Every attack of Obito is reaping away lives at an astonishing speed, and in such a short moment, hundreds of Konoha shinobi have already died tragically at the hands of Obito. Whether it is the Susanoo chakra blade, Yasakani, no Megatama, Kamui Shuriken, or large-scale fire-style jutsu. Each of these attacks is overwhelming the battlefield, and hundreds of Konoha shinobi taking away their lives like dominoes. While none of the attacks of Konoha shinobi has managed to get past the defense of Obito's Susanoo, the only person whose attacks might pose some degree of threat to Obito's Susanoo is Jiraiya. But even his attacks are all useless because of the bug-level existence of Kamui. Kamui Shuriken is another bug-level attack, and there is simply no defense against it. The attack itself is a space-time attack, and perhaps one of the most difficult attacks to fight against. People who are cut by the Kamui Shuriken are directly warped into the Kamui dimension. In fact, Fujin even believes that the attack level of Kamui Shuriken is on the same level as Alkilling Ashbones. The reason is simply that there is no defense against it. Even Otsutsuki Kaguya wasn't immune to the attack of Kamui Shuriken. Therefore, Kamui Shuriken is another headache that has to be dealt with, and Fujin is thinking about how to make the next set of tactics where he can give Itachi the chance to seal Obito using the sword of Totsuka. Kurenai noted Fujin's silence and asked anxiously, "At least speak something." Seeing hundreds of Konoha shinobi dying tragically at the hands of Tobi, Kurenai is extremely anxious. She believes that the only person who can fight against and stop Tobi from killing Konoha shinobi is Futen. So, he is her only hope, and she can't bear his silence. Seeing Kurenai's anxious expression, Fujin sighed and explained in a calm tone, "Usual means of fighting against him are completely useless. Because of his time-space jutsu, killing him is also not possible. I have already tried it twice, and both times the result has been the same. That is, he hasn't died. The reason is that he possesses a special forbidden jitsu, using which he can cheat death. So, we have to take that jitsu into account too when fighting against him. Additionally, he has also been transplanted with the Hashirama cells, so his chakra reserves are too high, so we can't rely on chakra exhaustion. Double Kamui Hashirama cells, along with the forbidden jutsu, Izanagi. With the combination of these three things with him, killing Obito is simply impossible. Perhaps even Uchiha Madara, who is stronger than Obito, wouldn't be so difficult and can be dealt with relative ease. But Obito with his Kamoi is unrestricted and unkillable. In fact, it wouldn't be wrong to say that, so long as Obito is cautious enough, no one in this shinobi world can pose a threat to him. So, whether Fujin can defeat Obito is not up to him. It is up to whether Obito will make more mistakes or not. This is Fujin's conclusion, based on his experience of fighting against Obito. He has already tried to kill Obito twice, almost achieved success both times, but still failed. Although Itachi now has the sword of Totsuka, among the things Fujin can use in his strategy against Obito, Fujin is still worried. After all, there is no guarantee that the sword of Totsuka can successfully seal Obito. What if Izanagi can counter even the sword of Totsuka? After all, sword of Totsuka turns all the disadvantages and unfavorable factors into Gen. So, there is no guarantee that it wouldn't be able to negate the effects of sword of Totsuka. Hearing Fujin's words, Kurenai asked, "Does that mean we should allow him to continue to kill our Konoha shinobi?" Fujin was about to reply, but suddenly he coughed violently and a mouthful of blood spurted out. Cough, the body trembled and was suddenly paralyzed. Seeing Fujin's condition, Kurenai hurriedly supported him and asked with concern, "Your injury is extremely serious. Why are you refusing to receive medical treatment from Tsunade-sama? If your injuries aren't healed, then you will definitely die." Fujin didn't care about Kurenai's words. He waved his hands impatiently and said in a weak tone, "It's dangerous here. Neither you nor your colleagues are suitable to fight against him. Don't stay here any longer. Go away now." Fujin didn't want to be distracted in the battle against Obito. Therefore, he wanted to drive away his team Ro, so as to avoid unnecessary losses of his subordinates. "I am not going away, no matter what you say," stated Kurenai, with a serious expression as she looked at Fujin with her red eyes. She didn't know the specific reason why she felt, but the calmer and more casual Fujin was in the face of such a precarious situation despite his serious injuries. The more fascinated Kurenai became. Therefore, Kurenai has decided that no matter how dangerous, she is not going to go away. Kurenai herself doesn't know whether this is natural worship of the weak towards the strong, or her belief and gratitude towards Fujin, who had saved her life a few weeks ago. Or is it that she had really fallen in love with Fujin, but what she knows is that she doesn't want to go away? Despite the risks and dangers, Fujin was too lazy to persuade Kurenai, and didn't bother to speak anymore. Anyway, if she wants to die so much, then she can die for all he cares. It is of no interest to Fujin. Fujin himself has to figure out a way to implement his plan and deal with Obito before his body collapses. So he has no time to get distracted, think, and worry about unnecessary things. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Boom, boom, boom. Explosion. At this time, countless kunai tied with exploding tag were shot at Obito inside the Susanoo, setting off a series of explosions and causing a burst of smoke to spread all over. However, it was of no use. When the explosions subsided and the smoke cleared, the intact emerald blue Susanoo appeared in everyone's field of vision. Damn it, everything is of no use. We can't win against something like that. He is a monster. Humans cannot fight something like that. As the death count and injured count continued to increase under the useless siege, the fighting spirit and morale of the Konoha shinobi were rapidly broken at the same time. Anxiety and fear started to permeate from one to many. The senior Konoha shinobi have of course noticed this inevitable change, so gritting their teeth, they stood up and shouted, "What we are fighting against is an enemy of the village and the entire shinobi world." As Konoha shinobi, We are responsible for protecting the lives of our families and friends who do not have the power and means of protecting themselves. If we were to give in to the enemy so easily, then what would happen to the lives of our families? No matter what, we must stand firm until the bitter end. Remember the words of Hokage-sama: when the tree leaves dances, one shall find flames. The fire's shadow will illuminate the village, and once again, tree leaves shall bud anew. So, for the sake of our children, for the sake of our families, for the sake of the village, and for the sake of Will of Fire, we must not give up. Even if we die, we will die as proud Konoha shinobi. For Will of Fire, for Will of Fire. By 100 instantly, the scenario changed, and the morale that was about to collapse was suddenly reignited by the words of this elder shinobi. The casualties in front of him did not scare him, who has experienced the first, second, and third great shinobi war. Everyone knows that there are many powerful shinobi out there who have the power to single out entire armies alone. Sandaime Reikage, who fought against 10,000 Iwagakure shinobi, and Yondaime Hokage, who killed thousands of shinobi, are such examples. However, in the face of continuous siege, even people as strong as Sandaime Reikage and Yondaime Hokage will get exhausted and tire out. So, this elder shinobi believes that as long as the siege continues, the enemy will sooner or later get tired and be defeated. Listening to the shouts of the elder Konoha shinobi, Obito sneered coldly. The countless and relentless sieges may work on people like Sandaime Reikage, but for him, who has far surpassed the level of Kage and is already standing at the forefront of Super Kage's level in terms of hard power and weird means, such a siege is simply meaningless. With access to Kamui, the initiative of whether to fight or not is completely up to him. He can choose to fight at any place he wants, any time he wants, and in any situation he wants, and no one can stop him. Just like now, despite all the boost in motivation, fighting spirit, and morale, the only thing that increased is the casualty counts and nothing else. After dealing with most of the Konoha shinobi, Obito stared at Kakashi, who was panting due to chakra exhaustion, then moved his gaze towards Fujin, who was standing at a distance. On this battlefield, the only person who makes Obito feel threatened is Fujin of the Amatsukami. After fighting with hundreds of Konoha shinobi, Obito has already confirmed that there was no defensive problem with his Susanoo. This clearly explains that the reason why his Susanoo was so easily cut open by Fujin is not that his Susanoo has weak defense, but because the attack method of Fujin is extraordinarily strong and can directly ignore the defense of Susanoo. Although Obito has never heard that Shikochi Sumiyaku possesses such power. However, Obito now understands that he can't be careless even against Fujin. So casting a vigilant look at Fujin, Obito swore to himself, there will never be a third time. Never. After swearing to himself, Obito again looked at Fujin, and thought about how to capture or kill Fujin. The fact that Fujin has been repeatedly coughing out blood is very clear to him. And with his keen knowledge of the Kaguya clan that Obito has collected over the years, Obito fully understands that this is probably because of the illness that the members of the Kaguya clan suffer from. Therefore, Obito understands that he just needs to push Fujin a little more, and the serious illness in the opponent's body will become the cause of his defeat or death. The chance is right in front of him, so, after groaning for a while, Obito decided to take the risk. Anyway, Obito is confident that he wouldn't die after all. There are still 2-3 Tomo Sharingan in his body, which can be used to cast Izanagi. And if Obito can capture a member of Amatsukami at the cost of 1 or 2 Izanagi, it would be worth it, Therefore, Obito made up his mind to catch Fujin. Seeing that Obito locked his gaze on him, Fujin immediately guessed Obito's thoughts. He shook his right hand slightly, and immediately a bone blade protruded from the palm of his right hand. What's amazing is that the bone blade in his right hand is not the previous kind of bone blade. Instead, it has changed significantly. The previous bone blades used by Fujin were all pale, white, sharp, and glowing with cold light. But the bone blade in his palm at this moment is dim gray. The color is much deeper, and there is no sharpness in this bone blade. From the perspective of a bystander, the bone blade in Fujin's hands doesn't seem to carry any power. Instead, it feels extremely weak and inconspicuous, as if it will be broken into many fragments with very little effort. Even Kurenai, who was standing next to Fujin, keenly noticed the changes in the bone blade in Fujin's hand, and was really worried now. His injuries must be extremely serious. So serious that even the bone blades he is creating have been weakened to such a degree. Chakra condensed, and Obito, who was standing inside the diamond cavity of the huge emerald blue Susanoo, held the huge Kamui shuriken in the hands of his Susanoo, as he observed the other side. Under the Tomo mask, Obito had a solemn expression. His Mangaku Sharingan was revolving at an extremely fast speed, catching every move of Fujin on the ground. Seeing Obito looking at himself, Fujin abruptly pushed away Kurenai. Smash! Unsurprisingly, Kurenai flew out and fell into a pit in the distance with a muffled sound. Thankfully, she had 2 Katsuyu slugs with her. Therefore, whatever injury she suffered from was healed instantly. Kurenai really wanted to curse Fujin for treating her so roughly. But looking at Fujin, who seemed to be staring at Toby, Kurenai chose to remain silent and did not say anything. Perhaps the reason he pushed me abruptly was that he was worried of Toby's attack, was the thought in her mind. Unaware of Kurenai's thoughts, Fujin's eyes gradually condensed, locking on Obito standing inside the diamond cavity of Su. Under his Fujin mask, the blue veins near his temples on both sides of his eyes had already bulged to the maximum degree. And with these high purity, Byakugan Fujin was observing each of Obito's moves to the extreme. Both sides are using their individual dojutsu to capture each other's intentions and movements, predicting the attack method that the other party would use. This scene reminded Fujin of their casual fights during the academy days when they were mere children. At that time, both were children and did not have much strength. One was unfamiliar with his Byakugan, while the other hadn't even awakened his Sharingan, and their fights couldn't even influence their class. But now, both of them have grown to the degree where they are strong enough to be able to easily influence the future pattern of the entire shinobi. It's really ironic, in the current pattern of the shinobi world, the genius and talented ones are struggling to stand on the swaying boats in order to be able to survive this stormy shinobi world, while the ones with poor talent are the ones creating the storms all over the shinobi world. Fujin chuckled, then moved his gaze to Obito's mask. Then very next moment, the gaze of the two people met each other. How long will your body last? The curse of the Kaguya clan is getting more and more effective with each passing second. Will you still be able to move as fast as before in such a condition? And how long will your chakra reserve last? It's best to give up, because there is no chance of winning. Obito sneered in his heart, because Obito understands the curse of the Kaguya clan very well. Therefore, he is certain that Fujin cannot last for very long, and each passing second is equivalent to pushing Fujin one step closer to death. Not to mention Fujin has already participated in so many fights, so his chakra reserves should be consumed already. After all, Fujin had Kon after another fought against and solved the threat of Satori of the Box of Bliss, Haruko, and Nagato's Tendo Pain. And in these several fights, Fujin has used all kinds of jutsu, including Magnet Release Jutsu, Storm Release Jutsu, an advanced Shikutsu secret jutsu that cause heavy chakra consumption. So even if Fujin possesses Biju class chakra reserves like Hoshigaki Kasami, the chakra reserves had to have gotten exhausted by now. Therefore, Obito is more certain of his victory. This one will have to break through his Susanoo first, in order to ensure that the plan goes safely, thought Fujin, and continued after a pause. Will you still make mistake, Obito? Will you still get overconfident and give this one a chance to resolve your threat? Obito Fujin is sober and understands full well that success or failure does not depend entirely upon him. It mainly depends on whether Obito will make mistakes in overconfidence. Because only when Obito makes a mistake can he be dealt with, and as long as Obito does not make a mistake, Fujin doesn't have the slightest chance of sealing Obito. While the two stood on the opposite side, cold wind blew past, also blowing away the dirt and leaves in a circle. And as soon as the leaves landed back on the ground, Obito made the first move. The more than 100 meters high Susanoo that is controlled by Obito's consciousness shot out several Kamui shuriken towards Fujin, accompanied by the deafening whistling sound of cutting through the wind. The huge Kamui shurikens that were thrown by Obito's Susanoo rushed towards Fujin in several strange arcs. Humph, uchiha, shuriken jutsu, Fujin thought as his lips arched in a smirk. The shuriken jutsu of the Uchiha clan is the most famous across the shinobi world, and Fujin is no stranger to Uchiha Shuriken Jutsu. This is because not only has he mastered Uchiha Shuriken Jutsu while training the Suki clone, but also has good experience of dealing with Uchiha Shuriken Jutsu because of several training spars against Itachi and Shisui. Therefore, Fujin can easily judge the trajectory that he must take in order to be able to dodge these Kamui shurikens. After waiting for 2 instants, Fujin immediately rushed towards Obito, following a particular trajectory. The direction he is rushing forward is towards Obito, not the opposite. This is because Fujin understands that only by putting pressure on Obito will be a chance where Obito will be forced to make mistakes. And Fujin plans to use that opportunity well. It's just that not all plans go well. Just like now, as Fujin was rushing towards Obito, suddenly a crack sound reached his ears, and the very next moment, accompanied by bone-breaking pain, his body lost balance, the speed of advancement slows down, and Fujin almost fell on the ground. Fujin hissed in pain and cursed, "Damn. This one's bones won't be able to hold on for much longer." Although Fujin cursed, somehow, he managed to prevent himself from falling, and added a lot of chakra to the bone that had broken to make sure that the bone heals quickly. In this way, although the chakra consumption rate will increase, at least, bones will no longer break all of a sudden. Now with the problem resolved, Fujin can again rush forward. But by now, a lot of time has already been delayed, and the Kamui shuriken have also knocked on the door. Whoosh, accompanied by air-cutting sound, the Kamui shuriken rushed towards Fujin from both sides. With death knocking him on the door, Fujin had no choice but to roll on the spot in order to be able to dodge the Kamui shuriken. Although, dodging in such a manner would be a little embarrassing, however, being able to dodge both the Kamui shurikens will at least give him a further chance to be able to carry out his plan. So Fujin did not hesitate in the slightest. As Fujin rolled on the ground, the edge of one of the Kamui shuriken managed to touch the black Amutsukami cloak of Fujin. Of course, the flesh on Fujin's back was not spared either, and like a sharp blade it directly cut through skin and flesh, causing red blood to flow out. Thankfully, Fujin used his backbone in due time and managed to push away the Kamui Shuriken, or else the Kamui Shuriken will continue to tear him apart and transport the torn part into the Kamui dimension. Who almost died there. Taking a relieved breath, Fujin thrillingly avoided Obito's attack, and without wasting a single moment in caring about the injury on his back, Fujin rushed towards Obito to launch a counterattack. As he dashed towards Obito, Iron Sand flew towards him and took the form of a pair of Iron Sand wings. Now, with Iron Sand wings on his back and a greyish bone blade in both hands, Fujin cut his way towards Obito at the edge of Konoha village. Amidst the trees, Zetsu's half-body also leaned outside, and he was observing the Fujin vs Obito battle in the distance. Looking at Fujin, who condensed Iron Sand wings and flew towards Obito while dodging or cutting through various long-range attacks, White Zetsu said, "Aren't we going to go any closer? Obito wanted us to take advantage of the chaos and kidnap Uzumaki, Naruto, as well as collect some of Fujin's blood and deliver it to Haiden. But if we remain at the edge of Konoha, how will we be able to complete those two tasks?" Black Zetsu denied. The entire underground of Konoha has been packed with dense bone forest, and the bone forest is continuously expanding like tree roots. Don't you remember what happened not long ago? Do you still like the taste of being pierced by countless bone blades? White Zetsu immediately shook his head. Don't joke around. Those bone blades can even cut through Obito's Susanoo. We are very lucky that we managed to survive the last time. I have no interest in being pierced by countless bone blades again and again. After hearing White Zetsu's words, Black Zetsu became silent and cast his gaze on Fujin. More specifically on the greyish bone blades in Fujin's hands with a thoughtful expression. White Zetsu did not know what Black Zetsu was thinking and muttered with a doubtful expression, "It's quite weird. That guy obviously has a problem with his body. So why does he maintain such a large underground bone forest that is covering the entire Konoha village? Even if it is created to secure a retreat in case of emergency, such a large scale is of no use to him, and it is quite burdensome on chakra reserves and body, and yet he is continuously increasing it. Why?" Black Zetsu also frowned after hearing White Zetsu's doubts, and immediately a panic burst into his heart, causing him to blurt out his thoughts. "It's definitely because he knows of our existence and knows what we can do, so that bone forest is definitely created to prevent us from entering inside the village and prevent us from capturing the Jinchuriki of Kubi, as well as prevent us from interfering in the battle against Obito." White Zetsu was shocked by Black Zetsu's words and can't help but look at Fujin in a new light. On the battlefield, with the Iron Sand wings on his back, Fujin's speed returned back to the peak state, which unexpectedly surprised Obito a little, causing Obito to become vigilant again. Obito understood that the defense of his Susanoo is of no use against the other party's bones. At the same time, because Fujin's speed is extraordinarily fast, so Susanoo's attacks are of no use against the other party. So Obito instantly dispersed the Susanoo in order to save his visual prowess. At the same time, activated the Kamui to enter an intangible state. And Fujin, who tried his best to launch a final blow on Obito, seemed to be unable to hold anymore and directly vomited a mouthful of blood. Immediately after that, the Iron Sand wings on his back collapsed. Being unable to use magnet release chakra to recreate Iron Sand wings, Fujin fell from the air and fiercely collapsed on the ground, further breaking a few more bones. Obito, in the intangible state, also landed on the ground at this time, and his lips arched in a smirk as he looked at the embarrassed state of Fujin. TSK, collapsed already. And here I was thinking of playing with you for a while. Hey, it's really disappointing. Although he said he is disappointed, his tone clearly indicated that he is very happy that Fujin collapsed on his own. Fujin, who had fallen on the ground again, vomited out blood. Then wiping it away, he tried to get up, but couldn't because of several broken bones which agitated him. And Obito's provocative words angered him, gritting his teeth. Fujin raised his trembling hand and shouted, "5-finger drilling bullets." Wheesh, 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 wheesh. Instantly, 5 bone bullets were shot out from Fujin's hands and rushed towards Obito. But similar to all the previous attacks, no matter how powerful they were, in the face of Obito's Kamui intangibility, they were all useless and passed through him, with finger-bone bullets embedded in a rock not far away. Obito walked towards Fujin step by step and said, "Despite being an enemy, I guess I do respect your strength and means. To be honest, I am a little curious about your identity. A master like you shouldn't be an unknown, but it doesn't matter anymore. Now that you have lost, you are my captive. After tonight's objective is completed, I will have Nagato torture out all the information in your brain about you and Amatsukami behind you. So rest assured, it wouldn't be very long before your companions will follow you." Although Fujin's state was extremely bad, he did manage to mutter with some difficulty, "Don't think you have one yet."